Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Monday. It's bank holiday over here in the UK. So I hope if you're based over here, you're enjoying yourself, having some fun away from work, wherever else you're watching or listening to this around the world. I hope you're having a very, very good start to your week. It's a little bit quiet, as you can imagine. We're in that little bit of a lull now once the season ends. Certainly ended for Arsenal. Obviously, still a bit of football to be played before we can turn our attentions to the Euros. But it's ended for Arsenal and players on holiday, coaching staff are on holiday. Just feels like a little bit of a lull right now. But there is still plenty to talk about. We're going to talk about Marcus Rashford today, who is absolutely in the headlines at the moment, all over social media, the debate over Arsenal and Marcus Rashford. I'll give my thoughts on that. Leah Williamson, fantastic news announced this morning by Arsenal that she has signed her new contract. We'll talk about that. Pep Guardiola, his future. Got plenty of questions and comments from you guys as always as well. But let's start with Marcus Rashford, shall we? Now, AFC Amden on Twitter, Dean, who I'm sure you're all well aware of, a account on social media who's definitely got his ins, has been right on plenty of stuff before, threw a cat amongst the pigeons yesterday with this tweet saying he understands Arteta and Rashford have spoken in recent weeks, interest on both sides, but remains to be seen how willing United would be to sell to us. Can't see it happening personally, but would love him at Arsenal. Now that sparked loads of debate on social media. Now we've spoken about Rashford on this channel before. Myself and Team News and Ticks spoke about him actually on our show on Friday. First of all, I can't confirm what AFC Andom is saying here on his tweet at all. But he's been right about stuff in the past, and I don't see why he wouldn't be right about this as well. But in terms of Rashford, here's my issue with Marcus Rashford. Now, look, I think Marcus Rashford's a really, really good footballer. And about a year and a half ago, before he signed his new contract at Manchester United, I would have been very, very much up for Arsenal signing a player who was playing superbly well, scoring goals, performing for England, performing for Manchester United at the highest of levels. But he's had a big, big dip since then. And he signed a huge, huge new contract as well. Now, just because he's had a dip in form doesn't mean that Arsenal or other clubs shouldn't sign Marcus Rashford. We've seen what Mikel Arteta has done with Kai Havertz, for example, since he's come over from Chelsea, a player who completely lost his way really at Chelsea. Confidence had taken a massive hit, hadn't really shown anything to warrant being signed for such a big amount of money. But Arsenal saw something in him, Arteta saw something in him, and he's been proven right because a year down the line, he's proven to be a fantastic signing for Arsenal. Has made a big impact, albeit not in the position that we all thought he was originally brought in to play, but he has made a big, big impact, and he now looks a completely different player, worlds apart from the player who arrived. He's confident. You can see that. He's got full belief in what he's doing, and he's impacting the game with goals and assists as well. So there's no reason why Mikel couldn't do that with Marcus Rashford. But my big, big worry would be, A, the wages, because of that massive contract he signed. I don't know how Arsenal would be able to go near that, really. I think it would take a huge, not just a huge financial outlay for the wages, but you're talking about a massive, potentially massive transfer fee as well for Manchester United to sell to a rival. So financially, I don't really see how this works. But I'm also concerned about Rashford's form. And I read a really good piece from Le Grove, actually, on his blog about this situation. I really, really agreed with a lot of what he had to say about it. And Havertz was coming from a team that was just really, it was a basket case for a club. So it's a little bit different. But he was still very young. He still had that sort of by Leverkusen time ingrained pretty fresh in his memory. Rashford is a one club man. He's a Manchester man, born and bred Stretford End, Manchester United. I think there's a big difference from what Havertz for signing a player like Havertz than there would be from signing a player like Marcus Rashford, especially with the emotional ties of it all and the baggage that he brings with him. So you've got that sort of emotional baggage of taking a player from his sort of hometown club, taking him out of Manchester, bringing him down south, putting him in London. I also look at where Rashford's gone wrong, certainly this season. I look at how he's been playing, and maybe it's because he's not been motivated. Maybe it's because he doesn't like the manager. I don't know. But you look at what he does and his work rate off the ball at times, in a way he just has been jogging back when he's let players run past him. You do that for 2 games under Mikel Arteta, and you are bang out of the picture. He wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know if he's got the ability to play like Mikel Arteta would want him to play and the hunger to play like Mikel Arteta would demand that he plays. So that's a big concern. Off the pitch, there's been issues with Marcus Rashford as well. Again, massive red flag when it comes to playing under Mikel Arteta. You do something like Rashford did when he went off to that stag do and called in sick the next day, and then there was videos of him lashed up in a club, stumbling down some stairs, and all that sort of stuff came out. Do that again with Mikel Arteta, you are in deep, deep trouble. And again, maybe he's just doing that because he's totally disillusioned at Manchester United. I don't know, and he could come to London, and he wouldn't. But those are my big concerns about it. I just think you can't always revitalise a career, revitalise a player like you have done with Kai Havertz. And I think Marcus Rashford would be a much bigger challenge because of his age, because of, like I said, where he's coming from, a one-town club, and it would be such an emotional tie, such a huge difference for him. He's not used to playing anywhere other than Manchester. Havertz was. He's used to changing clubs. This would be a first for Marcus Rashford. And I'm just not sure going from Manchester to London would be a wise move. So those are my thoughts on it. Like I said, I don't know if it's correct what Dean is saying here on his social media or not. I will certainly try and find out. If I hear anything, I will let you guys know on it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'm really interested to know your thoughts on this. Would this be a signing you think? I mean, from a player point of view, he fits the bill of what Arsenal kind of want. You can play on the left. He can play as a central striker. He's fast. He can score goals. He's excellent in transition. It's a player that Arsenal need, that type of player with all of his attributes. So purely from that point of view, he ticks so many boxes, I think, especially if you get him playing the way he played last season or 2 seasons ago rather than the season just gone. But I still think there's a lot of, I do think the potential negatives outweigh the potential positives for me on it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Right, moving on to Pep Guardiola. Reports today doing the rounds that this is going to be his last season at Manchester City. He is going to leave when his contract expires at the end of the season. Now, this would be huge. Absolutely huge. Huge for Arsenal, huge for every other team in England, huge for Manchester City, obviously, because Pep Guardiola is an absolute genius. Yes, he goes to clubs where he has all the tools to be able to work superbly under and superbly with, brilliant footballing setup, huge amounts of money, huge financial resources to correct any sort of transfer mistakes and things like that. But he is a genius. There's no doubt about it. 4 in a row in the Premier League, 6 in the last 7 years. Wherever he's been, he's brought success. There is no way, no matter how much financial resources Manchester City have, there is no way they can maintain what they have done once Guardiola leaves. I'm absolutely convinced that, yes, they'll still be challenging up the top. Yes, I'm sure they'll still win Premier League titles and compete for the Champions League. But I just don't see them being the force that they are with Guardiola at the helm, because he makes a difference. He's that good. He develops players so well. He demands so much from his players and has their respect. And if he does, as the reports today suggest, go at the end of the season, then I think it's big news for a team, certainly like Arsenal, who look so well positioned to not only really compete with Manchester City now, but probably be the main beneficiaries should Guardiola go. As long, admittedly, as because Arsenal are in the same position as Manchester City in terms of their manager, who only has 1 year left on his contract. Now, I fully expect Mikel Arteta to sign that new deal. If he does, and the stability remains at the club, and they remain on the same trajectory that they are on, should Guardiola go at the end of this coming season, I think Arsenal would be fantastically well placed to really sort of kick on and try and become the dominant force in English football. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Guardiola also speaking after their Premier League title parade seems to suggest that there could well be some player exits, some fairly significant player exits this summer. Kevin De Bruyne being linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. Whether that happens remains to be seen. Ederson, by all accounts, could well also be heading off to Saudi Arabia this summer, which would be a big loss to them. It's been a huge part of their success in goal, obviously, Ederson. So could be some big changes at Manchester City, certainly this summer, but then even bigger ones next summer when it comes to Pep. Right, moving on to the big news from the Arsenal women today. Fantastic news. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that picture there. Brilliant news. Claire Wheatley and Jonas Alderweireld standing either side of Leah Williamson, signing another Arsenal contract. Leah Williamson is Arsenal. We all know that. Arsenal captain, England captain, has come back well from her really, really bad knee injury and is back in the team, and she has signed her new deal. This is what she's had to say. Everyone knows what Arsenal means to me, but I think every time I sign a new contract, I feel that love ignite all over again. I'm very happy to be staying. This is a place where I can continue to grow, develop, and be challenged. As a group, we're all focused on bringing more silverware to this club, and I can't wait to get started again when the new season comes around. Jonas says, Leah is an essential part of our team, so we're delighted she has signed a new contract. She brings us so much on and off the pitch, leadership, accountability and commitment. Leah has a special bond with Arsenal, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work together to bring more success to this great club. So great news from Arsenal. Captain, leader, legend, Leah Williamson has signed a new deal, and that follows on from fairly quickly from the news. Stina Blackstenius had signed a new contract as well. So good developments for the Arsenal women as they head into the off-season. Interesting to see what new arrivals come in to strengthen the team as well. Right, moving on to some of your questions and comments. We got him from Martin here. He says, hello, Charles. With our South American links and scouts, isn't it about time we tap into the market better? I'm not talking about Marquinhos type signing, someone young who will be a good squad player and pick up minutes from the bench. Cup games, City and Brighton do it well. Chelsea are making moves into that market. They are, yeah. I mean, again, actually, myself and Team News and Tick spoke about this on our show on Friday, that we're both a bit surprised that we haven't tapped into it more. I thought it was definitely going to happen. I suppose Marquinhos, when you say not a Marquinhos type signing, but what Marquinhos was signed for was, potentially what you mentioned there. Be a good squad player and pick up minutes from the bench in cup games. And it looked, the initial signs of Marquinhos was that was going to be the case. He made a bit of an impact. He looked like he had something about him. Didn't quite happen, faded away, and so unfortunately he didn't become that type of player. But Arsenal was certainly hoping that he would be. He's obviously away on loan at the moment. I can't imagine he's going to come back. I think that will probably be turned permanent, head back to Brazil on a permanent basis. But yeah, I'm surprised. I thought that would be a case. I mean, you look at what Chelsea do now. They are spending big money on some of the players that they're signing from South America, though, committing huge amounts of money to potential, 16, 17-year-olds going, given for like £65 million. That is Stevio that they've just signed, isn't it? That they're committed to. Real Madrid have done that as well with Endrick, obviously. Barca have signed it with Roque Jr., isn't it? Who's linked with Arsenal. So clubs are doing it, but Arsenal at the moment not really doing it. I suppose when you look at Arsenal and the work they've had to do over the last couple of years to sort of claw back the gap on Manchester City and become the force that they are being, Arsenal, they've not really been able to do that type of sign-in, to spend that sort of money on a young player you hope works. I suppose the money has been put to it immediately improving the squad and immediately improving the team, because that's what had to be done to close the gap. So maybe once you're more established as a dominant force in Europe and one of the very, very top teams, which we hope Arsenal are going to become over the next 2, 3, 4 seasons, then that will allow them to maybe take a bit of a chance and invest some big money on players who you're not absolutely sure is going to come in and make it, but you hope will. So it's certainly one to keep an eye on, I would say. Here's a lot of reaction to what we spoke about yesterday with Kieran Tierney, who said his goodbyes to Real Sociedad yesterday, talked about his emotional goodbye and how sad he was to be going. We spoke about his future. You guys have all got in touch. Ollie says, I think bringing him back will be a good idea, especially if we plan to sell Zinchenko. As long as Tierney is happy to be second or third option, I can see him as good backup. Could be the new Rob Holding type substitute that can come in and close out game 1-0. See where you say there, as long as Tierney is happy to be second or third option, I don't think he will be. He's one of Scotland's star men. He's not going to be wanting to be sitting on the bench. He wants to play. That's why he went to Sociedad to get regular game time. I cannot imagine Kieran Tierney at his age and with his quality is going to want to be a Rob Holding type player for Arsenal. So he's going to want to go. Absolutely. Stan Adams says Tierney is a very good player, but it's a different style to what Arteta wants. He'll be an asset to wherever he goes. To Lovell Burt says, gutted to see Tierney go. In my opinion, he was our best left-back defensively. He just couldn't adopt the inverted role. It's something he admitted himself in that interview at Athletic he did. And then down the bottom there, line on the dial says, easy to forget what a breath of fresh air Tierney was when we signed him. We were lacking leadership and still he brought that to the team. He was seen as future captain for good reason in a side lacking leaders. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's easy to forget that, though. I think Arsenal fans do remember that. And that's why Tierney is such a popular player still. It's because of that sort of what he did when he first came in and how he was dragging the team up at times with his quality down that left-hand side. And like you said, he did look like a future captain. I was convinced he was probably going to go on and certainly be Arsenal captain or vice captain. It didn't happen. But yeah, he did play a big part in the start of that, of Arsenal get themselves back out of the doldrums. And I think that's why he's such a popular player still with the majority of the fan base. Weeksy here asks, could Man United have done us a favour in winning the FA Cup? Newcastle have no European football, which quality players Bruno and Isak would like. Ramsdale, Tierney and Eddie could be part of the deal as they would be good fit for the Geordies. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Look, I think Isak, we've spoke about Isak before, and I think it's going to be incredibly difficult, even without European football, Newcastle just don't seem like they are willing to do any sort of business when it comes to Alexander Isak with Arsenal or anyone else. And if you're going to get him, you've seen reports that they would want something like £200 million to do business. Now, whether that's the case, I don't know. You know, if someone does end up whacking in a sort of £100 million bid and testing the waters, it remains to be seen what Newcastle would do. But all the talk is that they are just not even remotely up for entertaining discussions about Alexander Isak. Bruno appears to be a little bit different. If someone is going to go, which word at Newcastle, that might have to happen for them to do some significant transfer business themselves, then Bruno certainly seems to be the big potential option with that. Man City are interested. Arsenal, we know, are definitely interested. And maybe this will do Arsenal a favour. We'll have to wait and see, but the clock is ticking. Obviously, if you want to trigger this release clause, then it has to be done in June. You don't necessarily have to trigger a release clause. You can wait and still try and sign him after that. But the release clause is the thing that pretty much guarantees you being able to talk to him if you hit that figure. So we'll have to wait and see if it's done Arsenal a favour or not. Here's another one. Says, I'm surprised no one is talking about Kimmich. He got 1 year left on his deal and will be on the cheap. Good number 2, 6 and 8, winning mentality. And of course, if you can't beat them, join them. Only downside is he's 29, but we don't really need to recoup money on him as he would be cheap. 3 + 1 year deal. Then we could sell when he's 31 for an okay sum, or he can run down his deal. I think he's, along with a striker on cover for Saka, could win us both the Premier League and Champions League in the next 2 years. Love the show. Cheers from Norway. Thank you very much. Yeah, look, I mean, people are talking about Kimmich. He's been a name that has been mentioned for a good couple of months now. The thing with Kimmich is he's admitted himself he wants to wait and see what happens at Bayern Munich before making a decision on his future. He wanted to see who the new manager is. It's going to be Vincent Kompany, although it's not been confirmed yet, has it? But it is going to be Vincent Kompany by all accounts. You know, will that impress Kimmich? Will that be enough for him to convince him to sign a new deal? We'll have to wait and see on it. But look, I mean, I wouldn't turn my nose up on someone like Joshua Kimmich and the experience that he can bring, the quality that he can bring. You know, it's all well and good sort of signing young, talented players, but you do need a little bit of sprinkling of quality and experience on the top of those to help those gels. So yeah, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be put off by anything in terms of Kimmich. The only issue is you know, do Arsenal need that sort of right back, right midfielder option? I don't know. I think if you're looking for some immediate improvements down that right-hand side, it's out-and-out cover for Bukayo Saka for me. But he can play in the central areas as well, of course. But I think there's probably just other priorities that Arsenal need to work on this summer rather than someone who's sort of with the profile of with Kimmich. But thanks very much for that. A couple of questions here on the Emirates Cup before we go, saying what's happening with the Emirates Cup. From Paul and someone up there with no name as well was asking if we'll play in the Charity Shield. No, Arsenal will not be in a Charity Shield this year. They would have been if Man City had won the FA Cup. It would have been Arsenal, Man City in a Community Shield, just like it was last year. But because United won the FA Cup, it's going to be United versus City again. So in terms of the Emirates Cup, Arsenal were waiting to see what happened with the Community Shield. Had that been the case, and the Emirates Cup would probably have been a midweek game like it was last summer. But now there's no Community Shield, then the Emirates Cup is probably going to be on the weekend, maybe, of the Community Shield game itself. So keep your eyes peeled for further information on that, which I think will probably come out over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I do expect there will be an Emirates Cup this summer, and it will now be a weekend Emirates Cup rather than a midweek one. And it'll probably be the weekend of the Community Shield, but we shall wait and see on that. Thank you very much for watching and for listening, everyone. Appreciate your time as always. Have a fantastic day wherever you are around the world, and we'll be back to do it all over again tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.